Hello and welcome to this episode of RPGGamer Top 5s, and this time we're going to do the top 5 RPGs on the Xbox 360. The Xbox 360 is a home video game console developed by Microsoft, and it competed with Sony's PlayStation 3 and Nintendo's Wii as part of the 7th generation of video game consoles. It was officially unveiled on MTV on May 12, 2005, and features an online service, Xbox Live, which was expanded from its previous iteration on the original Xbox and received regular updates during the console's lifetime. Several peripherals were released, including wireless controllers, expanded hard drive storage, and the Kinect motion sensing camera. The release of these additional services and peripherals helped the Xbox brand grow from gaming only to encompassing all multimedia, turning it into a hub for living room computing entertainment. The earliest versions of the console suffered from a high failure rate, indicated by the so-called Red Ring of Death, necessitating an extension of the device's warranty period. Microsoft released two redesigned models of the console, the Xbox 360S in 2010 and the Xbox 360E in 2013. As of June 2014, 84 million Xbox 360 consoles had been sold worldwide, making it the 6th highest selling video game console in history, and the highest selling console made by an American company. The Xbox 360 was built around a 3.2 GHz PowerPC tri-core Xenon processor, which was designed around using a slightly modified version of the PlayStation 3's cell processor architecture, with 512 MB of GDDR3 RAM clocked at 700 MHz, and graphics provided through a 500 MHz ATI AMD Xenos chip, displaying graphics up to 1080p high definition at 1920 by 1080 pixel resolution. The Xbox 360's successor, the Xbox One, was released on November 22, 2013, and on April 20, 2016, Microsoft announced that it would end the production of new Xbox 360 hardware. But with that, let's get on with the countdown. And at number 5, Fable 2 by Microsoft in 2008, with 112 votes. Fable 2 is an action role-playing open-world video game in the Fable game series, developed by Lionhead Studios and published by Microsoft Game Studios, and it is the sequel to Fable and Fable The Lost Chapters. The game takes place in the fictional land of Albion, 500 years after Fable's original setting, in a colonial era resembling the time of Highwaymen or the Enlightenment. Guns are still primitive, and large castles and cities have developed in the place of towns. Unlike the original, the player may choose to be either male or female. There are both interactive and non-interactive cutscenes in the game. According to Lionhead Studios, the non-interactive cutscenes consume less than 5 minutes of game time. In the fully interactive cutscenes, a player can use their expressions during the dialogue, or even run away during the scene, thus skipping it. Afterwards, a player can return to the cutscene location to start it again. If the player runs away from a cutscene which contains important information, the character will await the player's return. And at number 4, Dragon Age Origins by BioWare in 2009, with 170 votes. Dragon Age Origins is a role-playing game developed by BioWare and published by Electronic Entertainment Expo. It is the first game in the Dragon Age franchise and was released for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in November 2009. Set in the fictional kingdom of Ferelden during a period of civil strife, the game puts the player in the role of a warrior, mage or rogue, coming from an elven, human or dwarven background. The player character is recruited into the Grey Wardens, an ancient order that stands against demonic forces known as Darkspawn, and is tasked with defeating the archdemon that commands them and ending their invasion. The game is played from a third-person perspective that can be shifted to a top-down perspective. Throughout the game, players encounter various companions who play major roles in the game's plot and gameplay. BioWare described Dragon Age Origins as a dark heroic fantasy, set in a unique world and a spiritual successor to their previous Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights franchises. Origins received critical acclaim upon release, with praise mostly directed at its story, setting, characters, music and combat system. It sold more than 3.2 million copies and 1 million pieces of downloadable content. Its multiple year-end accolades included Game of the Year and Best Role-Playing Awards from several gaming publications. BioWare released several instances of downloadable content after the game's initial launch. An expansion pack for the game titled Awakening in March 2010, and two sequels, Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age Inquisition, were released in 2011 and 2014 respectively. And at number 3, Mass Effect 2 by BioWare in 2010, with 278 votes. Mass Effect 2 is an action role-playing video game developed by BioWare and published by Electronic Arts. It was released for Microsoft Windows and Xbox 360 in 2010, and the PlayStation 3 in 2011. Mass Effect 2 is the second installment of the Mass Effect series, and a sequel to the original Mass Effect. The game takes place within the Milky Way galaxy during the 22nd century, where humanity is threatened by an insectoid species known as the Collectors. The player assumes the role of Commander Shepard, an elite human soldier who must construct and gain the loyalty of a diverse team and stop the enemy in a suicide mission. For Mass Effect 2, BioWare changed several gameplay elements and put further emphasis on the third-person shooter aspects, including limited ammunition and regenerable health. In contrast to the exclusive focus on the main story of the original Mass Effect, the developers opted to create a plot where optional missions had as much intensity as the main mission. Mass Effect 2 was a commercial success and received critical acclaims from video game publications, with the Xbox 360 version holding a score of 96 out of 100 at the review aggregate website Metacritic. Critics praised multiple aspects of the game, including its interactive storytelling, characterization, and combat. In contrast, some reviewers expressed concerns about the game's simplified gameplay compared to the previous game in the series. The game received numerous year-end awards, including Game of the Year at the 14th Annual Interactive Achievement Awards, and Best Game at the 2011 British Academy of Film and Television Arts Awards. The game is frequently cited as one of the greatest video games of all time. A sequel, Mass Effect 3, was released in 2012. And at number 2, Fallout New Vegas by Bethesda Softworks in 2010, with 355 votes. Well, here we go again. When I started doing these lists, I set a rule that once a game had been on a list, I'd never talk about it again, so I wouldn't keep going on and on about the same games. But since changing over to a polling system, I haven't had the choice. So here we are talking about Fallout New Vegas for the third or maybe even fourth time. It's a spin-off of the Fallout series and was developed by Obsidian Entertainment and published by Bethesda Softworks. It was announced in April 2009 and released for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 on November 19, 2010. The game is set in a post-apocalyptic open-world environment that encompasses a region consisting of parts of Nevada, California and Arizona. Players take control of a character known as the Courier. While transporting a package across the Mojave Desert to the city of New Vegas, the courier is ambushed, robbed of the package, shot in the head and left for dead. After surviving, the courier begins a journey to find their would-be killer and recover the package, making friends and enemies among various factions, and ultimately becoming caught up in a conflict that determines who will control New Vegas and the Mojave Wasteland. And at number 1, The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim by Bethesda Softworks in 2011, with 477 votes. And another game we've talked about so often in the past. Skyrim is the 5th main installment in the Elder Scrolls series, following The Elder Scrolls IV: Oblivion. Skyrim was released worldwide for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 on November 11, 2011. The game's main story revolves around the player character's quest to defeat Alduin the World Eater, a dragon who is prophesied to destroy the world. The game is set 200 years after the events of Oblivion and takes place in Skyrim, the northernmost province of Tamriel. Over the course of the game, the player completes quests and develops the character by improving skills. The game continues the open world tradition of its predecessors by allowing the player to travel anywhere in the game world at any time, and to ignore or postpone the main storyline indefinitely. Skyrim is a massive game with so many side quests and places to explore, it's no wonder the game has seen multiple releases with updates and improvements, and features at number 1 on this list. So, that's it for this list of the top 5 RPGs on the Xbox 360. What did you think? Are we featuring the same games again and again? Should we return to banning games once they've been featured so we can at least get to talk about games which people aren't as familiar with? Please let us know your thoughts in the comments below or by getting in touch through email or the website. Anyway, as always, many thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like what we're doing, but most of all, you look after yourselves, and we'll catch you later. Bye.